everybody, it's Yasmin here with my hair all over the shop as usual. How is everybody? I'm going to go to the hairdresser quite soon, my lockdown hair. What's news? I'm about to do my Unity online radio. UnityOnlineRadio.org. I'm about to do the show. We're going to actually be talking to someone who's a friend of mine, but also an amazing light worker called George Lizos, and this is his new book, so I'm a bit excited about that. We'll be looking at the astrology for the week ahead, and if I can, maybe just sneak away for a moment. Hang on.
That's a busy tone there.
Oh, that's not good. Hang on a minute. Just try again, Louis. He'll realise to get off the line, I think.
Okay.
Ollie B, can you bring down my cards, please? My Moonology cards. No, George, get off the line.
I'm going to keep trying from the Skype account. That way it won't make a noise. And here we go.
13555. Get in tune with the sun, moon, and stars. This is Astrology with Yasmin.
Hey everybody, it's Yasmin here. Do you like the music on this show? I love it. They actually gave me about 10 to choose from, and I love it. George Lizos is going to be on the show with us today, and he is now currently on the line with me on Facebook. George, we are trying to call you, and your number is engaged. So, how is everybody? It's a full moon week, so you can expect everyone just to be like a little bit insane. It's the 31st of August, which means it's about to be September. And, oh gosh, there's so much going on in the skies. I think one of the things we're going to talk to George about today is about how to stay calm in the midst of all the mayhem. Because there really is a lot of mayhem going on at the moment. And every time I get to come to do my my month ahead stars, or today I recorded something for my members area, the Sun, Moon and Stars portal that we have. And I actually felt like, am I kind of repeating what I said last month, which was all about the fact that Mars is clashing with Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto. And the fact is, everybody, guess what? Mars is clashing with Saturn and Pluto between now and the end of the year, and it really is the ongoing story that we are all going to have to learn to manage. And you could even argue that the energies we're dealing with right now as we emerge from pandemic land are just to make sure we learn the lessons, okay? Did you learn the lessons that lockdown was trying to teach you? All right, because now you're going to be tested. So, what do you feel like lockdown has taught you? There are plenty of people, at least here in the UK, there are plenty of people who actually don't even want to go back to working, to commuting.
Hello?
Oh, hang on a second. I'm just going to have to put you guys on mute.
Hello?
Because I don't really know how to do that. Maybe Louis can manage that. Yeah, there are loads of people who apparently, according to the... actually, I was listening to this quite cool podcast yesterday called Coffee House Shots, which a girlfriend of mine recommended. She's a very, one of my most clever girlfriends who's managed to do amazing things for herself. We both went to university together in Tasmania. We both majored in French at Tasmania. She's now... Am I allowed to say? I'm sure I'm allowed to say. She's now, it's not like it's a state secret. She's now the Deputy High Commissioner to London, Australia's Deputy High Commissioner to London, and, she went to Downing Street. Anyway, she was recommending some podcasts for me to tell my son about because he's really into politics, and one of the ones she recommended was called Coffee House Shots. And so I had to listen to it. And the episode I listened to yesterday, and it was really good, it's run by The Spectator magazine. And basically it's talking about the fact that here in the UK, it's probably the same in the USA, that the government wants everybody to go back to work in the office. It's like they want people to go back to work. Because, you know, that's going to be making life go back to normal. It's going to be helping the economy. It's going to mean that, you know, people are actually going to be able to earn money again. I mean, we've been extremely lucky in our family because we work from home anyway, so it didn't really make any difference. And we just had the bonus of having our son Louis with us, which has been amazing, amazing, amazing. We've absolutely loved that. I don't know how much he's loved it. I think he's loved it actually. But you know, so people are saying to me on Facebook, because I'm broadcasting on Unity Online Radio and Facebook at the same time, about what they've learned in lockdown. And that's the really, really big thing. So we've got Aoife. Aoife says, lockdown has taught me how to do my forgiveness ceremony. And that is a big one for you, Aoife, isn't it? I know that because I know a little bit about you and I know you were having trouble forgiving. So that's good. You know, if you've learned how to do forgiveness, how to be more forgiving during lockdown, keep going with it, okay? Because the thing is that what's happening now is Mars starts to clash and clash and clash again. We're all going to be tested on what we've learned. You know, and if we're actually serious about making a better life and if we're serious about detoxing our lives. And speaking of full moon forgiveness, I'll be doing that this week. Check moonmessages.com/FB events, F for Facebook, FB for Facebook, moonmessages.com/FB events. I will be doing a full moon ceremony and we'll be doing full moon forgiveness. Let me just look at a few other of the comments on Facebook here about what people have learned. Kirsty Louise says, lockdown has taught me never to take life for granted and life is too short. Exactly. Diana Molina says, lockdown was okay. Boring, but okay. Desi Ray Marie says, I live on my own and struggled with lockdown. Yes, gosh, I can't even imagine what it must have been like doing lockdown by yourself. But I can guarantee you, if you were doing meditation and prayer and yoga and that sort of stuff while you're in lockdown by yourself, your life will change as you come out the other side. It reminds me a little bit of when I went to live in Paris, really spontaneously. I went there for a week, liked it and decided to stay. And I basically knew no one. I think I knew like one person a bit. So I spent a lot of time by myself, meditating, praying, doing yoga, you know, chanting, all that kind of stuff. And it literally changed my life. I left Paris 2.5 years later, engaged to my beautiful husband and pregnant with Louis, who's now 13. So, and I know it was because I went in. So, you know, and this is actually a little message for all the Victorians. In Australia, the state of Victoria, there's still an entire state in lockdown, like heavy duty lockdown. So if you're watching this from Victoria, hello, you have our sympathies. I think they can barely leave the house for anything. It's a pretty serious lockdown. Use it as a time to go within. Do your meditations, do your prayers, do your journaling. Such a good time to do journaling. You know, do a vision board. Print stuff out from the internet if you've got any ink in your printer, or make a virtual vision board. Just using it on your computer, you can make it your lock screen or whatever. Connect with other people who are in the same situation. Do your yoga, do your Tai Chi, do whatever, and make this a time of self-care and ceremonies, if I can just quote Diana, who just said exactly that on Facebook. Make it a time of self-care and ceremonies. And, you know, if you have a bath, Gaynor's on Facebook and she's saying she's in regional Victoria. Good luck. We're all thinking of you. And, you know, and now Desiree saying, I did meditate and soul search and went for runs, but still struggled. It's fine to struggle. This is not... I'm not suggesting you meditate and do runs, and I'm not suggesting you meditate and do yoga and chanting or whatever if you're still in lockdown wherever you are in the world. I'm not saying it because it's going to make it easier. That's not necessarily the point. It might make it easier, but the point is you're probably never going to get a chance like this again to work on yourself. So even if you do struggle a bit, it just means you're working through stuff. And, you know, that's what really shifts stuff. And I'll tell you something a bit disgusting, and this is going to particularly offend all the Americans out there, because you Americans are much more polite than we are sometimes. but after I went through all that in Paris of basically being by myself for a long time, I mean, I could get out of the house and I could go for a wander around Paris, but I didn't know anyone. And I used to say the only people I talk to are shopkeepers. But after about 3 months of living there, I think it was, or maybe even 6 months, and I'd got to know people obviously by then, but I had done a lot of work on myself. I would do new and full moon ceremonies, meditations every single time. Even if they're at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up for them and look at the moon out the window if it was a full moon and so on. Anyway, after a while, I decided, okay, I'd read this thing which said that all French people get colonic irrigation. If you know what colonic irrigation is, it's basically when they put a thing up your butt and they pump water in and then they kind of expel all this stuff. Sorry, I don't mean to be disgusting, but stuff that in many cases has been there for years, so they say. And you get rid of all your shit, literally. And so I did all this sort of work on myself, all this alone time, card readings and, all that internal work. And then I went and got a colonic irrigation and I moved all the CRAP out of me, And I later found out that all French people do not get colonic irrigations. By the way, I went to someone who gave me something to take afterwards to help replace the lost flora and fauna in my body, for anyone who's worried about that. But I thought, gosh, that was so symbolic, because a lot of what happened in Paris, I was detoxing after a really, really kind of abusive relationship that I'd been in. And all that work I did, it cleared me out. And then literally I cleaned out my shit and my CRAP. And then I met my beautiful husband. So, it's quite mysterious, don't you think? So we're about to get George Lizos on the phone. I hope he's online. Let me just check here. He doesn't appear to be online yet. George, why don't you call us, since apparently we can't call you. Your phone number was coming up as engaged. But George is saying on Facebook, taking flower essences was so helpful during lockdown. They helped bring up stuff so I could work on it and release. That is a great thing. So all our friends in in Victoria who are still in lockdown, or anywhere else in the world, I don't know if anywhere else is in such big lockdown as Victoria at the moment, but anyone else in the world who is in lockdown, if you can still online order, maybe go on and get yourself a couple of Bach flower remedies. It's B-A-C-H, like the composer, like the pianist, the musician, Bach. Get yourself some flower. Look at the Bach flower remedies and see which of those appeal to you. All right, so I think that's enough ranting from me. Let us get...
Hello, Yasmin.
Hi, George. Give me a second. I'm about to introduce you.
How?
Just let me introduce you first. Otherwise, people aren't going to even know who I'm talking to. No, I saw you on the Skype call. Louis told me on the thing. So, George Lizos is a spiritual teacher and intuitive, author of Be the Guru and the co-creator of Elemental Healing, the host of the Lit Up Lightworker podcast as well. He helps lightworkers to find their life purpose and work their light in real, palpable ways that create positive change in the world. So please, let's give a big Unity Online Radio welcome to George Lizos. Woo! Hi, George.
Hello, Yasmin. It's so lovely to be with you here. Hi, everybody.
It's so nice to see you too, to hear you too, George. So, George, where are you? Are you in Cyprus?
I am based in hot Cyprus right now. It is really hot. I have to have like a fan right across of my face just to keep it sane.
Right. So, look, George and I met because he worked at Hay House, which is obviously my publishers. And George used to be the magical man who did all sorts of things with the books. I'm not really sure what you did, George, but you did a great job, whatever you're doing. And at one point he decided he wanted out. He wanted to go and work for himself and become the light worker that he is, to step into his light worker shoes. So, George, for anyone who's listening and thinking, I don't want to do my job anymore, I know I'm a light worker, can you give us some wise advice? Because obviously there's a fine line between leaving the job that pays your bills and saying, right, I'm going to be a light worker, and actually making enough money to support yourself? Because George has actually been doing this for a few years now, so he's proved he can do it. But can you just explain to people who are, like, a lot of people will write to me and say, I want to start my own healing practice, I want to be a full-time Reiki person, I want to do massage. What do you say to those people?
Great question. First of all, this is something that I talk about in detail in Lightworkers Gotta Work. And basically my path to making the transition from working a full-time job to being self-employed was, number one, getting really clear on what my life purpose is. Because as light workers, we all know that our purpose has to do with helping people heal, with helping in the ascension of the planet. But what specifically is it that we want to do? For some people, it's Reiki. For other people, it's giving psychic readings. For other people, it's being an astrologer. So in Lightworkers Gotta Work, I help people get really specific and define their life purpose in a specific 1 to 2 paragraph definition. Now, the next step for me was, now that I know what my life purpose is, I need to start taking daily action steps towards my life purpose. Because when we show up for us, then the universe shows up for us as well. So by taking these small action steps, it creates a powerful momentum of attraction that allows the universe to bring people, opportunities, and experiences that help us follow our life purpose. Now, that doesn't mean just quitting our job completely and trusting that the angels and the universe will take care of everything. We gotta put in the work. Light workers gotta work. So my suggestion was, and what my plan was let's have a full-time job to ensure it's gonna pay the bills, to ensure that my creativity and my purpose doesn't have to produce and support me at these points, so I can be free to create all my work, so I can be free to create all my products and services, and then when it picks up enough momentum, then I can make the transition. So the big lesson here is, don't expect for your purpose to pay for your living right from the get-go. Allow it, give it the time to nurture, to grow, so that it can eventually thrive and support you.
So, and on a really practical level, and can I just say, George and I both worked with Doreen Virtue back in the day before she had her conversion. And she was a big one to say, you know, don't just quit your job and become an angel therapist or an oracle card reader or whatever. She used to say, like, get clients on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday night, say, and build your business up like that on a really practical level. Is that the kind of thing you would suggest, George?
Exactly. So that's what I did exactly. Having a full-time job while working on my spiritual business part-time and during the weekends. However, what did happen with me was I burnt myself out because I did that for so long. I abused my masculine energy and not respected my feminine energy as well, which brought me to the stage where I burnt out and I had to take a more balanced approach. And of course, I detailed this exact story in Lightworkers Gotta Work and how I managed to make this shift. But it's so important for people to be mindful of, yes, working on your business part-time, but don't exhaust yourself, because when you just work, and hustle, then you're preventing yourself from receiving the inspired guidance from source, from your angels, from your spirit guides that will direct you on making the right action steps so you can move forward with your life purpose. And that is a distinction that I talk about in the book between ego work and light work. So I started light working by working on my business part-time, but eventually it turned into ego work because I let go of my spiritual practice. So it's very important to maintain this balance.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that. Was that after you'd quit Hay House?
Yes, exactly. So essentially, while I was working for Hay House, I woke up one morning intending to go to work, and my body just wouldn't move. I realized I had exhausted my body to the point that I just couldn't move. I had gained 15 kilos. I developed a serious case of eczema. Essentially, I was abusing my masculine energy and not paying enough time to nurture my feminine energy. And that's when I set off to go to Glastonbury. I'm like, I need some guidance from my guide, from my spirit guide. And long story short, when I was in Glastonbury, I had the epiphany that, yes, I am meant to learn how to embrace feminine energy, but not simply by focusing on the divine feminine, not simply by focusing on the goddess, but learning to find the feminine from within the masculine. And therefore, learning to work in a way that the guidance and the action steps I'm taking are inspired guidance. And therefore, they're coming from source rather than their ego action steps, whereas they're coming from my ego and they're coming from a sense of, oh, I'm going to hustle my way to get there. So in practical terms, what that meant was, the guidance I received was, quit your job, move back to Cyprus, go self-employed. And by that time, I had built my business to the point that it could support me financially. So having moved back to Cyprus, I had to take the practical action steps of nurturing my feminine energy, which is a 3-hour spiritual practice every single morning. And then I had to take the practical action steps of receiving the guidance from that 3-hour spiritual practice and then taking action steps that were guided rather than forced.
Okay, and when did you get burnout and stop your spiritual practice?
So that was 3 years after over-exhausting myself, working a full-time job while building my spiritual business part-time.
So you got burnout while you got burnout while you were at Hay House.
Exactly, yes. That was my 3rd year at Hay House, and that's when I had my epiphany. You know what? This cannot go any longer. I have to let go.
Okay, but I mean, to me, a 3-hour daily practice sounds like that would risk burnout as well. I mean, that's a big daily practice every day.
It is, but you know what? I craved it for so many years because my spiritual practice while working for Hay House was like a 15-minute meditation every single morning, and I craved this deep sense of connectedness. So as soon as I committed to my life purpose, I heard the calling, spend time to deepen your connection with Source, and that will guide you. So a 3-hour practice for me is not as over-exhausting because it's just so varied. It includes the meditation, it includes exercising, it includes doing ritual work, it includes journaling. So it's a combination on working on myself and growing and connecting myself to Source. And since you've brought up the spiritual practice, in Lightworkers Gotta Work, I talk about the 3 essential components that we need to have in our spiritual practice for it to work. And these are, it has to be consistent. Therefore, it has to be every single day, specific time every single day to show our commitment to ourselves and our purpose. Secondly, our spiritual practice has to have a long duration. By long, I mean between 15 and 30 minutes. You really don't want more unless it's your job where you can invest more if you want to. But it needs to be longer than 15 minutes or between 15 and 30 minutes because happiness is a muscle. Spirituality is a muscle that needs to be nurtured. And then third component is it has to be a happiness practice because spirituality is a practice of connecting ourselves to our happiness, to Source, to our inner being. So if the spiritual practices don't inspire within you the emotion of happiness, then it's not really a spiritual practice. It's a forced practice. It has to be happy.
All right, so sum the 3 up again really quickly. 1 is be consistent. 2 is...
So it's consistency, duration, and then we have happiness.
And now, with the duration, you're saying it has to be at least half an hour a day. Is that what you're saying?
Between 15 minutes to half an hour is ideal. It's like going to the gym. Like, let's say you could work out for 10 minutes every single day. It's not gonna, well, it will do some good to you, but it's not gonna create massive change in your body. If you work out at least 15 to 30 minutes, that's gonna create some pretty big changes pretty fast as well. Same thing with our happiness.
Okay, so as the world emerges from lockdown, George, there's going to be a lot of people who've decided that they want to change their lives and they don't want to go back to their old jobs. And I mean, obviously one of the things they can do is they can read your book, Lightworkers Gotta Work, which I'm actually holding up to the camera on Facebook right now. But what else can they do on a practical level as they, wrestle with, as I was saying before, the government's trying to get people to go back to work. I actually don't know if I completed that thought, but the government in the UK is desperately trying to get people back to work. And a lot of the people who used to work, commute are going, you know what? I actually don't want to go back to work. I like working from home. So what's your advice to those people who are trying to move more into their life purpose and their spiritual purpose now as they come out of lockdown?
Great great question. So I have a 3-step plan for them. This is clarity. That's step number 1. The second step is nurturing your life. The third step is working your life. Now, here's what I mean by that. Firstly, you need to have clarity on exactly what your life purpose is. Meaning, you need to know not just that you're here to help people heal. How are you going to help people heal? What kind of practices or processes are you going to use? What exactly are you helping these people with? Which people exactly are you helping? Is it women? Is it men? So you need to have answers to these questions. You don't need to have all the answers right now, because we're only able to know what our life purpose is to the degree to which that we're ready to know it. And of course, in Lightworkers Gotta Work, I guide people through a process to clarifying their life purpose. So clarity is step number 1, because unless you know what your life purpose is, then how can you follow it? And then the step, nurturing your life, meaning you need to spend time on your spiritual practice to nurture your connection with Source. And Yasmin, something both you and I talk about and we love is working with the energies of the moon to help nurture our inner light. So something that I talk about in Lightworkers Gotta Work is connecting with the cosmic light of the sun, the moon, and the stars to nurture our own inner light, and therefore nurture our connectedness with Source. Because each of those different lights has a different kind of spiritual vitamins that we need. But the spiritual practice is the primary way of nurturing your light. Of course, in the book, I share lots more ways as well. And the general purpose behind nurturing our light is to receive the action steps and the guidance that we need to help fulfill our life purpose, to help us express our life purpose. And then step number 3 is working our life, which involves leveraging on manifestation processes that actually work, that will allow us to receive all that light and all that guidance and turn it into people, into opportunities, into experiences that help us actualize and manifest our life purpose. Really, all we need to do to follow our life purpose after lockdown is have clarity, connect to Source, and then take action. And that action will be inspired. And that inspired action will create double, triple, quadruple the results.
Okay, George, I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm going to have to cut you off because we're about to go to a break. But stay around. We'll talk to you after the break because we'll tell people where to find you as well. Sorry about that, George.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Louis. All right, Facebook people. I think I'm going to cut off from Facebook, but just before I do, this is George's book. It's called Lightworkers Gotta Work, and it's an amazing book. One thing that I really love, actually, is chapter 29. Let's have a look there. It says manifestation rituals, which, of course, I am all about manifestation rituals. And what he's got... Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask him about this after the break, so we'll just stay on here. No, you know what? I'm going to speak to him on unityonlineradio.org. unityonlineradio.org. You can hear the rest of the show, the second half of the show, and more questions for George, and also I'll take some of your calls. unityonlineradio.org. Hop over there.